The NDI booth, the ecosystem booth at IBC, and I'm very pleased to have this panel with these friends. I'm Roberto Musso, Technical Director at NDI and known as Dr. NDI. So, we are talking about cloud, and we will have a very interesting session. Introduction. So, over the last decade, we have seen cloud reshape almost every part of media, from storage, distribution to editing and collaboration. But in live broadcast, the adoption has been a little bit slow. The reason was, the perception about reliability, latency, interoperability, and all those factors continue to spark debate about cloud usage and adoption. And so today we want to ask the big question: is the cloud finally ready to become the standard for broadcast production, or it will remain complementary tool alongside on-premise infrastructure? And so to explore this, we have good friends, 4 leading voice, Nora San, worldwide partner solution architect, media and entertainment at AWS, the company that more than any other has defined the cloud infrastructure, what the cloud infrastructure means at scale. We have Steve Taylor, Chief Product and Technology Officer at Vizarti. Vizarti is a pioneer of software-defined production, enabling live workflow to move into the cloud with creativity and flexibility. We have Jiri, Matela, CEO at Comprimato, which is a specialist in video processing and compression, helping solve the very real challenge of efficiency, bandwidth, and quality in cloud workflow. And then we have Aaron Tunnell, Business Development Director for Cloud Solution at Ross Video. Ross is a global leader in cloud production technology, known for his broad portfolio spanning graphic automation production system. Ross has been increasingly focused on hybrid and cloud native solution that help broadcasters transition the existing workflow into flexible, scalable cloud environment. So together we will look at the opportunities, the challenges, and the particular steps needed for a broadcaster to fully embrace the cloud. So the first question is for all the panelists. So cloud workflow has been discussed for over a decade, but adoption has been uneven. What do you see as the biggest barrier still holding back cloud-based broadcast from becoming the default standard? So I have not 4 mic, so I ask you to help me and share the mic. Is already on.
Yeah, I can go first. I think the technology stack for cloud and remote production is quite good. We have many tools that makes remote production cloud possible today. I think especially when it comes to one of the events is also very economical to put up the virtual production in cloud. But I think the biggest struggle is in kind of like engineering talent and knowledge, because all of a sudden it's not only about the video that has been around for, knowledge around SDI and other technologies has been around for many years. All of a sudden also IP, security, DevOps, and a whole bunch of other areas where the video engineers need to educate themselves. And I think this is, in my mind, the biggest obstacle for the bigger adoption of the virtualized cloud application.
Sure, I can go next. I agree with you here on the knowledge side of things. I would say look at it from a consideration standpoint. So when cloud workloads for broadcast started, it started mainly with playout as the main workflow. And with that came a set of considerations. Example, how do you contribute content to the cloud, or how do you enable multi-region resilience? As the workflows are becoming more intricate, our customers are wanting to create content, they want to connect systems together, they want to enable personalized experiences and so on. The considerations are also evolving. And so looking at things like, the knowledge base is one of them, but interoperability is a key aspect as well. How do we accelerate interoperability to reduce the time to market for customers and have solutions that they can trust and benefit from? Also leaning in on the superpowers of partners and accelerating applications that are maybe API first, or coming back to that DevOps lens as well. Right, so these are some of the areas, and I think licensing is another consideration as well. How do you look at licensing, especially in hybrid workflows?
Well, I could just say I agree with all of that, because I do. I think there's an element of just lack of awareness or experience or trust. It's new technology. If we look at the transition from SDI to IP over AV over IP, this is the next step of that. And so just getting that awareness, the knowledge that, the thought that you need to know how to set up virtual private things in the cloud and blah, 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 is the challenge that we need to make it as simple as possible. So the onboarding, the offboarding, the support of protocols, things like NDI supporting media centric is an amazing sort of adoption factor to allow people to not even have to think about this. And that's what we need to do. We need to stop talking about cloud. It just needs to be there, and then we're talking about what we're doing in the cloud, because that's the real value that we're all striving towards.
Of course, I agree with everybody here. I was going to say skills gap, right? I joined AWS 10 years ago, and it's not just a skills gap of the Venn diagram of cloud engineers and broadcast engineers, where that overlaps was small then. It's still small today. We have to make it easier. I like what Steve just said around cloud is really a distribution method. The technology is ideally the same and transparent to the end user. So I think it comes down to we need to make it easier for things like licensing, like Norm mentioned, easier for signal discovery, easier to deploy from that perspective, and then we'll get more adoption from that side of it. And it's not just on the hyperscalers. Many of us here on this panel are from the vendor side as well, and so that's part of the journey that we need to take along with customers is part of that.
Yeah, so the next question is for Nor. So as one of the main driving force, and many of us would say the driving force, behind the democratization of cloud service, how have you seen the role of the cloud in broadcast evolve over time? And what are the biggest difference between when this journey began and when we are today, and where we are today?
I would say cloud is an enabler, right? And I think that's something that Aaron alluded to. We want to think of the cloud as a vessel, right, to achieve excellent business outcomes for customers. So as AWS and our partners, we are customer obsessed in helping them get there. And we see that in how the workflows are evolving in the cloud. So if you combine the superpowers of partners, right, whether it is obviously the NDI and Comprimato and Bizerti and Ross and others, each one of our partners has superpowers. Combine that with breadth and depth of services in the cloud that are not only horizontal, but are purpose-built for media and entertainment. So services for media and entertainment, solutions for media and entertainment. Plus, I would say the experience of AWS teams for over 18 years in the space. If you look at our general manager for media, entertainment, games, and sports, Samira Bakhtiar, she came from Cisco and she was working on the broadcast side of things. Thomas Edwards is a SMT fellow and is also ex-Fox. I came from a vendor as well, right? And so it's a combination of these things that are accelerating the workflow and the vision of our customers.
Great, thank you. So, question for Steve. Bizerti has been enabling software-defined production for years. How do you see cloud workflow changing the role of live production teams, for example? And are we moving toward a model where creative talent can be fully distributed worldwide and not being in the same place?
Yeah, I think there's two angles on this. So let's talk to that one. Absolutely, people can now produce a show from anywhere at any time. We did a great thing on the beach about 2 years ago on California and got all these technical directors in and showed them all our products and then realised that actually they weren't in the same room as the products, and that understanding that I don't need to be here and get on a plane is a great thing. Obviously it's a great thing for health, social mobility and flexibility, but also just that ability also to have the people in one place, but all the equipment does not need to be shipped out to the ground. So that's also, no more truck rolls, no more heavy equipment, obviously still need the cameras there. So there's a lot of flexibility either way. And I think that's what we like. We're actually changing the workflow, the way people are engaging with the technology and not just the technology at the same time. And then of course, once we get to the cloud, then we've got all these other capabilities of AI-enhanced workflows and pulling things together and automation and agentic reducers and everything, and that also changes that workflow as well, which is amazing.
So the next question is for Jiri. Low latency video processing and efficient codecs are crucial for cloud production. How is Comprimato tackling the balance between quality, bandwidth, and compute resource in cloud environment?
Right. While the software gives you lots of flexibility how you can do things, but also it brings a lot of options that we deal with. And for each of those options, in theory, cloud has unlimited compute power, right? And not really in the real environment because you need to pay for the power. So, and you can rely on special design PGA accelerators for the media processing. So what you need to do is you need to carefully optimize each of those video formats for both ingest and also for producing. And I think that when it comes to cloud specifically, like how to move video within the cloud, NDI has been pretty awesome combination of quality, formats, and I would also say what I like really about NDI is the user friendliness. It's like super easy to start using NDI. So there's no specific requirements for underlying hardware, and that's I think what we need in those type of environments, like with the user friendliness, and so yeah, that's what I think NDI really is great.
Cool, thank you. So the next question is for Aaron. So ROS has traditionally been known for robust on-premise solution in live production. How are you approaching the transition to cloud while still supporting broadcasters that need hybrid model? First question. And how is ROS helping production team to reduce the complexity and maintain the reliability when shifting to virtualized or cloud workflow?
Yeah, I think if you look at the whole panel is about broadcast adoption in cloud, and I think that we have to kind of take a more nuanced approach to that. I think I came to AWS 10 years ago to bring broadcast playout to the cloud. I think broadcast playout is very mature in the cloud, as is broadcast distribution. But live production in the cloud is still a journey. I know that Steve and VizRT are on this journey as well in particular. I think we've gotten to a point where we're all customer driven at the end of the day. We're listening to what customers want. And so I don't think it's a conversation as much anymore about whether or not it's technically possible to do it. It's really working back from the customer's business challenges. And a lot of that can be, how do we license right for this? So the ROS approach has been, we do have some customers who are, air quotes, all in on cloud, but predominantly most of our customers want to be able to burst into the cloud for special events. As Steve mentioned, rolling trucks is expensive. I think cloud allows for things like DR protection for individual local stations. It really was never physically possible before from that perspective. And so I think that that's the journey that we're taking with our customers, is kind of chasing what customers are asking for. One of the big use cases today that we're seeing is burstable graphics in the cloud. Being able to either add more graphics on demand or add graphics to a lot of tier 2, tier 3 content, particularly sports content, that you couldn't afford to buy a $50,000 graphics package for. How is ROS making it easier? We've been making investments over the last couple of years, really ramped up our cloud team. I'm proof of that, right? And then we've got a technology demonstration you can come by and take a look at. It's an orchestrator we call CPS, a cloud provisioning system, drag and drop capability of orchestrating predominantly ROS, but we're working on third parties as well. And kind of coming full circle back to the first question of the day, which is, what's the barrier to entry? The barrier to entry is still, I think, a skills gap and the complexity of it. We're not alone in this, but I think a lot of vendors are on a journey to make the orchestration and deployment of cloud live production easier, and I think that's a key component of it.
Thank you. I have another question for Noah. So from the AWS perspective, what do you see as the unique advantage AWS offer broadcaster moving to the cloud, and how do this compare or complement what we have just heard in terms of scalability, reliability, and enabling large-scale content creation?
I would say I would always go back to the customer obsession part and the ecosystem that we have in working with partners, right? Like everybody that we have here today. Just in media and entertainment, we have 600 partners and growing across different areas, all the way from content creation, broadcast, content production, distribution, as well as data science and analytics for media and entertainment. And so that becomes then, again, an enabler for our customers to be able to, getting to the cloud is maybe step one, but the idea is what do you want to achieve beyond lift and shift? What it is from a workflow standpoint that you can unlock from a transformation lens, right, that you want to be able to bring and experiment. So maybe testing for regionalization or testing with a new category of audience. So all of these things are becoming enabled with the collaboration of our partners. The other thing on the resiliency example or scalability, right? One of the things that we're doing well with our partners is interoperability, right? So whether it is with NDI, right, but interoperating the different software vendors together, right? I think that is another area where we're helping transform our customer workflows, right? Because you want to test as much as possible and shorten the time to market with that.
Yeah, in fact, my next question is about that. So interoperability is a recurring challenge, and standard like NDI, 702110, and emerging cloud API all play a role. How do we ensure a cloud ecosystem where broadcaster can mix and match tools without being locked with a single vendor? So this is a question for all of you.
I'll just add a quick comment and then maybe I'll hand it off to Jiri. We want to do more of it, right? We've done together some interops with NDI, we've done interops with JPEG Access, we've done interops where we were testing things like resiliency and breaking things, right? And so I think doing more of it helps. The beauty of NDI is that it is software focused and it enables that quick interoperability, right? One of the superpowers of NDI. So I think bringing more of it and more of these events would absolutely help.
I'm not sure how exactly to answer it, but I think that the cloud or virtual production environment is very diverse by nature. So it's more like a feature than anything else. And I think that for vendors, it's now much harder to design something that's really worthwhile and can scale. Because all these tools that can actually translate in different formats and standards and so on are becoming sort of like an integral part of the workflows. And as I said, it's really like a feature. It allows you to switch your workflow from this guy, one day it's JPEG high and workflow, another day it's H.264 maybe over RTMP. And the cloud is actually providing you that flexibility, and I think that all these conversions are now really an integral part of it. So I'm very much afraid about bullet charges as we knew it from maybe 10 years ago, because I think it's much harder for the vendors to create something like that. And I think that the cooperation actually among the vendors, especially in this industry, is probably unheard of. Kind of like competing with each other, but also, I mean, not only on a personal level, but on a technology level, we really try to cooperate because of the end it's almost.
Okay, how to answer that? I mean, I think, it is that interop. That is the most important thing there. I'd love to say there will be only one solution to this. I'd love that to be NDI. Great passion for NDI. However, we know that this is somewhat of a dream for the next, let's say, a couple of years. And so that interop, the ability to convert, the ability to accept anything, to output anything is going to be really important. But at the end of the day, everybody's a storyteller, and so we have to enable anybody to be part of this network there. I might even have a USB camera, how do I get that into that sort of network? The converters, as well as then looking at the accelerators. So if we can make NDI easier to use into AWS or out of or on the backbone of AWS, then great, we can make that an easier decision to make. And I think those are the sort of areas that we're looking for as to what more can we do to enable this. Obviously MXF is another really important part of this technology workflow. Making it easy so I can plug things in, tell my story, and all the magic's happening in the cloud is ultimately what we're trying to do here. This is not about technology itself, it's about the ultimate outputs that we're striving for.
I agree with a lot of that. I think just to add on, the good and bad, I think really the good part of live production in the cloud, using things like NDI and AWS, using them as a standards base along with APIs and DevOps really allows for live production in the cloud to change out your vendors or your technology stack on a per production basis. And maybe that's because tool A is really good at problem A and tool B is really good at problem B. But I think it also kind of comes back to that everyone is afraid of vendor lock-in, and how do we help kind of, I think, cool customers down to those worries. I think coming back to what both Noor and Steve said, I agree. Like AWS has led with a lot of the vendor interop, but I think the more that we show vendor interop in the cloud, people understand that at the end of the day, that switching out a piece of hardware on-prem is, de-racking it and removing an SDI connection, and it's really no more difficult to do that in the cloud. If anything, you've got more flexibility there. And I think really the biggest thing holding us back from that is just more flexible licensing, and that's, I think, hard from the vendor side to achieve. But we need to work with customers to kind of figure out what the best path forward is on that.
So come on. So the last question for all of you. Let's say that we meet again here at IBC in 2030. Same place, same people. And how do you think that, so in your imagination, software and cloud, software-based solution and cloud will reshape the broadcast market and the broadcast production?
I think that all the virtualization of the production is making the professional broadcast production more and more of commodity. So if two of us decide to produce a show or sport event or whatever, we can do it probably, if you know what we're doing, we can put up the virtual production in the cloud in an hour and start streaming. And I think there's going to be, probably you already see it, right? And more and more things are being produced, and I believe that more and more things are going to be produced by independent, small productions, because the budget is no longer the problem. You would argue the cloud is expensive. Yeah, it is expensive maybe if you do things inefficiently, if you do things like 24/7. But for live events, I think that it's true enabler for anyone to afford broadcast grade quality production in a few minutes and very, very low budget.
I agree with Jiri, and I think that to your point prompted me to think about user-generated content. So I think we're going to be discussing that significantly more. If you look at how newer generations are consuming content today already, right? I mean, in a theoretical kind of audience, I'd ask like, hey, who's consuming news using social media, right? Like we're seeing more of that. So I think there'll be more discussions around it. A personal opinion would be potentially seeing IBC being IMC for International Media Conference. So kind of the line that is, it's no longer just broadcast. So much accelerated transformation into creating content, into connecting systems, and into enabling more, user experiences and focusing on that. Right. So, and I think we'll probably see less hardware-focused solutions. Of course, cameras and microphones being there, absolutely, but maybe less so on other hardware components.
Yeah, I was going to say certainly a lot less hardware has got to be the expectation. I think Visity's done its booth virtual for the last couple of years. A lot less kit to bring around, so maybe the power consumption of the hall will be lower as well. But I think it is more senders and receivers, more of the endpoint devices, more of the things that we're connecting the talent to, or the end consumer. I think it's going to be the focus of this. And I'm going to predict that we will not be talking about cloud, not because it's gone, but because it's just the thing.
Right.
And we need to get over that hump, and then we'll be talking about whatever the next thing will be there, how best to connect bits of AI together or wherever we may be there. And I would say we're definitely still going to be talking about NDI.
I hope I won't be here in 2030. I'll be retired by then, thanks to the power of cloud. But in all seriousness, I agree with Steve. I think that cloud won't be, a buzzword anymore because it'll just be, the new normal, particularly when we're talking about live production in the cloud. I think the other things that, I see maybe coming down the pike is, productions being essentially self-assembling in the sense that, you look at a news rundown or you look at, the type of content that you want to create. This kind of comes back to what Norm was saying about, enabling for these content creators. I think the number I heard from NAB was 50% of the folks at NAB this year were first year at their NAB. You got to believe that that's user generated content coming alive. So I think self-orchestrating signals. I think that's the future of NDI is like not just make it easy in the cloud, but how does it self-orchestrate, self-discover itself, and then same thing with the technology base, that, whether it's based on a news rundown or based on the content that you're capturing, call this, AI if you want to, but at the end of the day, the applications are going to be aware enough to be able to be ready to capture that live experience, auto-magically, so to speak, so. Anyway.
So, thank you so much. I don't think we need to wait the 2030 to meet again. If you want to stay, we will have soon an happy hour. And thank you again for be part of the panel. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.